I was 18 when my parents told me I had 24 hours to get out. No warning. No explanation. Just out. 10 years later I stood in front of that same house. But this time I wasn't the one leaving. I was the one holding the keys. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about what happens when you document everything, play the long game, and let karma write the final chapter. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. It's quiet, strategic, and absolutely devastating. And if you've ever been thrown away by people who were supposed to love you, you'll understand why this moment changed everything. My name is Jordan. I grew up in a picture-perfect suburban home. White picket fence, manicured lawn, two-car garage. From the outside we looked like the American dream. But inside those walls I was always the disappointment. My older brother Tyler was the golden child. Football star, straight A's, full scholarship to state university. Everything he touched turned to gold. Me. I was the artist. The quiet one. The one who read books instead of throwing footballs. And in my parents' eyes that made me worthless. My dad worked in sales. My mom was a real estate agent. They believed in traditional success. Money, status, appearances. I believed in creating things, in stories, in meaning. We were fundamentally incompatible. By the time I hit 17, the tension was unviolet. My dad would make comments at dinner. When are you going to get a real hobby? My mom would compare me to Tyler constantly. Your brother never gave us this much trouble. I tried. I really did. I got a part-time job at a bookstore. Kept my grades up. I stayed out of trouble. But nothing I did was ever enough. I wasn't Tyler. And that was my unforgivable sin. Then came my 18th birthday. I thought maybe, just maybe, things would be different. Maybe they'd acknowledge that I was trying. Instead, I came home from school to find 3 garbage bags on the front porch. My dad was standing in the doorway. His arms were crossed. His face was stone. You're 18 now, he said. You're not our responsibility anymore. You have until tomorrow morning to figure it out. I stared at him. What do you mean? We're done supporting you. Find somewhere else to live. My mom appeared behind him. She didn't even look at me. We've supported you long enough, Jordan. It's time you learned to stand on your own. No fight. No discussion. Just done. Stay with me. What comes next is where everything changed. I called Tyler that night. He was 3 hours away at college. Did you know about this? I asked. He sighed. Yeah, they mentioned it a few weeks ago. I told them it was harsh, but, Jordan, you gotta understand. You've been a burden on them financially. Maybe this is what you need to grow up. Even my own brother. Even him. I spent that first night at my friend Marcus's house. His parents let me crash on their couch. I was numb. It's like maybe. I kept thinking my parents would call, say it was a test, say they didn't mean it. They never called. The first week was survival mode. I picked up extra shifts at the bookstore. Marcus's parents said I could stay temporarily, but I knew I needed a plan. I started looking for cheap apartments, rooms for rent, anything. That's when I realized something. My parents had never put me on the bank accounts they'd promised for college. Tyler had a college fund. I had nothing. They told me for years I'd have money for school. It was a lie. I tried calling my mom. She answered on the 5th ring. Jordan, we've made our decision. Stop calling. What about college? You said you'd help. We helped raise you for 18 years. That's more than enough. Tyler earned his support. You haven't. The line went dead. I found out later through a family friend that my parents had told everyone I'd moved out to be independent. They spun it like it was my choice. Like I was this rebellious kid who wanted to go my own way. They protected their image. Made themselves look supportive. Meanwhile, I was sleeping on a couch, eating ramen, trying to figure out how to survive. Month 2, I moved into a tiny studio apartment. It was in a rough part of town, but it was mine. $500 a month. I worked 40 hours a week at the bookstore and picked up freelance graphic design gigs online. I stopped trying to contact my parents. What was the point? But I did start doing something else. I started documenting everything. Every text message they'd sent before kicking me out. Every promise about college they'd made. Every family friend who told me what they were saying behind my back. I didn't know why yet. I just knew I wanted a record. One day, about 6 months after they kicked me out, I ran into my mom at a grocery store. She saw me, and for a split second I thought maybe she'd say something. Apologize. Ask how I was doing. She turned and walked the other way. That moment broke something in me. But it also hardened me. I realized they weren't going to change. They weren't going to feel guilty. They'd written me off completely. So I made a decision. I was going to prove them wrong. Not by begging for their approval. Not by trying to win them back. But by succeeding so completely that they'd have to see what they threw away. Year 3. I was 21. I'd been teaching myself advanced graphic design, web development, marketing. I'd built a small freelance business. Nothing huge but steady. Enough to live on, save a little. That's when I saw the Facebook post. Tyler had shared a family photo. My parents, him, his new girlfriend. They were all smiling at some family dinner. The caption read, "So grateful for my amazing family. Best parents anyone could ask for." I stared at that photo for a long time. And then I saw the comments. Family friends congratulating them. Talking about what a great family they were. How proud they must be of Tyler. Not one mention of me. Not one. Like I'd never existed. I closed the laptop. I sat in my tiny apartment. And I thought, they don't get to erase me. That night I made a plan. Not an emotional, impulsive plan. A strategic one. I was going to build something so undeniable that they couldn't ignore it. And someday when the opportunity came, I was going to make them see exactly what they'd thrown away. I didn't know how yet. But I knew it was going to happen. Over the next 5 years I focused on one thing. Building. I worked 70-hour weeks. I took on every client I could find. I learned video editing, social media marketing, brand strategy. I built websites for small businesses. I designed logos. I managed ad campaigns. By year 5, I had a legitimate business. I hired 2 contractors. I had regular clients. I was making good money. Not rich but stable. Comfortable. I bought a small condo. I paid off my student loans. Loans I'd taken out myself because my parents refused to co-sign. I started investing. I lived below my means and saved aggressively. I also kept tabs on my parents. Not obsessively. But I followed their social media. I heard things through mutual acquaintances. And I learned something interesting: they were struggling. My dad's sales career had tanked. The industry had changed and he hadn't adapted. My mom's real estate business was barely breaking even. The market had shifted and she was losing clients to younger, more tech-savvy agents. They'd refinanced their house twice. They'd pulled out equity to cover expenses. And according to a family friend who reached out to me, they were behind on payments. I didn't feel joy about this. But I didn't feel sympathy either. Felt curious. Then 7 years after they kicked me out, I got a notification. A foreclosure listing. I almost scrolled past it. But something made me click. It was their house. My childhood home. Foreclosure auction. Scheduled for 60 days out. I sat there staring at the listing. And then I started researching. How do foreclosure auctions work? What's the process? What do you need? I wasn't sure yet if I was going to do anything. But I wanted to understand the game. Over the next month, I consulted with a real estate attorney. I learned everything I could. And slowly a plan formed. I was going to buy that house. Not to live in it. Not to rent it out. But to own the one thing they'd valued more than me. The house they'd chosen over their own child. I had the cash. I'd been saving for years. I had good credit. I had a business that showed stable income. I could get financing for the rest. The question wasn't could I do it. The question was, should I? I thought about it for 2 weeks. I asked myself if this was revenge or justice. If it would bring me peace or just more pain. And then I thought about that Facebook post. About being erased. About my mom walking away in the grocery store. About my dad's cold face when he told me to leave. I called the attorney. I want to bid on the property. The auction was on a Tuesday morning. I dressed in business casual. I brought my pre-approval letter. I brought my cashier's check for the deposit. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not Marcus. Not my coworkers. Nobody. When I arrived at the courthouse, there were maybe a dozen people there. Other investors. A few curious neighbors. And then I saw them. My parents. They were standing off to the side looking defeated. My dad's face was gray. My mom looked like she'd been crying. Tyler was with them, his arm around my mom's shoulders. They didn't see me. I stood in the back. The auctioneer started. He explained the process. He read the property details. And then he opened the bidding. Starting bid was $180,000. The house was worth maybe $300,000 in good condition, but foreclosures go cheap. Someone bid $180,000. Another person bid $190,000. I waited. The bids climbed slowly. $200,000, $210,000, $220,000. At $230,000 it stalled. The auctioneer asked for more bids. Silence. Going once. I raised my hand. $240,000. Every head turned, including my parents. My dad's eyes widened. My mom's mouth fell open. Tyler just stared. The auctioneer acknowledged my bid. $240,000. Do I hear $250,000? Silence. Going once, twice, sold. To bidder number 12. I walked forward to sign the paperwork. My hands were steady. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. As I passed my parents, my dad grabbed my arm. Jordan, what the hell are you doing? I looked at him. 10 years of silence sat between us. Buying a house, I said calmly. This is our home. Was your home, I corrected. Tao, it's mine. My mom stepped forward. Jordan, please. We can figure something out. We can talk. Now you want to talk? The words came out sharper than I intended. 10 years. Not one word. Not one apology. And now, when I'm the one with the power, suddenly you want to talk. Tyler moved closer. Jordan, come on. Be reasonable. Reasonable. I laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. You told me I needed to grow up, Tyler. Remember? Well, I did. I grew up, built a business, saved my money, and now I'm buying assets. Seems pretty grown up to me. I signed the final paper. The clerk handed me a receipt. Congratulations, she said. I turned back to my family. My former family. You have 60 days to vacate. The sheriff will deliver the official notice. After that, anything left inside becomes mine. My mom started crying. Jordan, we have nowhere to go. You had a child with nowhere to go once, I said quietly. You told him to figure it out. So I suggest you do the same. I walked out of that courthouse. And I didn't look back. The 60 days were brutal. My phone exploded with calls. Voicemails. Texts. My parents begging. Tyler trying to negotiate. Family friends trying to guilt me. I blocked them all. One aunt managed to get through. Jordan, honey, I know you're angry, but this is cruel. They're your parents. They were my parents, I said. They stopped being that when they threw me out at 18. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. But they're desperate. So was I. And no one cared then. I hung up. The eviction day came. I hired a property management company to handle it. I didn't want to be there. I didn't need that confrontation. But I did drive by later that evening. The house was empty. The keys had been surrendered. It was mine. I walked through it for the first time as the owner. It looked smaller than I remembered. Sadder. There were marks on the walls where pictures had hung. The carpet was worn. The paint was chipped. It wasn't the dream home anymore. It was just a house. I stood in my old bedroom. The tiny room where I'd hidden and read books and dreamed about escaping. And I realized something. I didn't want this house. I never did. I wanted the power. The vindication. But now that I had it, it felt empty. I listed the house for sale 3 months later. Fixed it up a bit, hired a stager, got professional photos. Sold it for $320,000. Made a decent profit. My parents moved into a small rental across town. Tyler helped them financially. I heard through the grapevine that they were barely speaking to each other. The stress had fractured them. I should have felt victorious. But mostly I just felt tired. About 6 months after the sale, I got an email. From my mom. The subject line was, "I'm sorry." I almost deleted it. But something made me open it. It was long. Rambling. She talked about how scared they'd been about money. How they'd projected all their fear onto me. How they'd convinced themselves I was a burden instead of their child. How they'd been wrong. How sorry she was. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't try to fix it. She just apologized. I read it 3 times. And then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. Here's the thing about revenge. It doesn't heal you. It doesn't undo the past. It doesn't make the pain go away. Buying that house didn't fix what was broken in me. It didn't make me feel loved. It didn't give me back those 10 years. A year later, I responded to my mom's email. I kept it brief. I accept your apology. But I'm not ready for a relationship. Maybe someday. Not now. She wrote back immediately. I understand. Thank you for even responding. That's more than I deserve. Tyler reached out separately. We met for coffee. It was awkward. But he apologized too. Said he should have stood up for me. Said he was young and stupid and scared of disappointing them. I forgave him. Not because he deserved it. But because I was tired of carrying the anger. I didn't forgive my parents. Not fully. Not yet. Maybe someday. But I stopped checking their social media. I stopped keeping tabs. I let them fade into the background of my life. So what did I learn from all of this? Lesson 1. Document everything. I kept records of every broken promise, every hurtful comment, every moment that mattered. And when the time came, that documentation protected me. It gave me clarity. It proved I wasn't crazy. If you're in a toxic situation, write it down. Screenshot it. Save it. You never know when you'll need it. Lesson 2. Success is the best revenge, but it won't heal you. I built a business, bought a house, proved them wrong. And it felt good in the moment. But it didn't erase the pain. Real healing came from therapy, from building a chosen family, from learning to love myself. The external victories mattered less than the internal work. Lesson 3. You don't owe anyone a relationship. Not even family. Especially not family who hurt you. Blood doesn't entitle people to your time, your energy, or your forgiveness. You get to decide who stays in your life. And it's okay to choose yourself. Lesson 4. Karma is real, but it's not always satisfying. My parents lost their house. They struggled. And yes, there was a part of me that felt vindicated. But mostly I just felt sad. Sad that it came to that. Sad that they couldn't have been different. Sad that I lost my family. Revenge doesn't taste as sweet as you think it will. Lesson 5. You can rebuild. No matter how bad it gets, you can start over. I was 18, homeless, broke and scared. And I built a life anyway. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. If you're in a dark place right now, know this. You are capable of more than you realize. You can survive. You can thrive. You can win. To recap, I was kicked out at 18. I built a life from nothing. My parents lost their house to foreclosure. I bought it at auction. They begged for mercy. I gave them the same mercy they gave me. None. I sold the house, took the profit and moved on. They apologized years later. I acknowledged it but kept my distance. Now, I'm at peace. Not because I got revenge, but because I survived. And that's the real victory. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated or thrown away, drop a comment. Share your story. You're not alone. And if you want more stories about people who refuse to stay down, subscribe. New stories every week. You are stronger than you think. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.